Good day, Rotarians and guests. Our speaker today is Senator Rector. He was born in Sacramento and has a bachelor's in chemistry from the University of California in San Diego. He's also taken education classes at Rotary and union leadership classes. He joined the Guam public school system in 1991, and in 1995 became a steward at JFK. In 2004 and until today, he became and is the president of GFT, Guam's Union for Teachers. And as you know, he's a freshman senator in the present legislature. Please come and join us and speak to us on the topic of your choice.
You know, I have the same problem at the legislature. Everybody's just a little bit shorter than I am there. So I'll move it up. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, you know, it's interesting listening to history. I'm a big history buff myself, and so I appreciate the little history lesson. When we forget our history, we don't know where we're going in the future. And as president of GFT, which is a local of the American Federation of Teachers, we have a proud history of ourselves. We became a union in 1916, and our first president was a woman. So you guys might have allowed women in for the last 20 years. We've allowed them in for a lot longer than that, and that's something I'm very proud of. Did everybody enjoy their lunch today? Pretty good, right? Hey, how many of you guys know that probably this kitchen hasn't been inspected by a health inspector in the last year?
Yeah, but we trust Scott.
Well, I'm not, this isn't to pick on the hotel, right? It's to tell how inadequate our public structure is, right? A lot of times we hear things about education and we think about police and firefighters, but we don't think about everything else. I'm just going to take this up, but we don't think about everything else that the public structure does to keep our families safe. And that's one of the big issues that I've been dealing with. Our public structure is about ready to collapse and implode. And if you didn't know that, hopefully I'll point out a few things. Last Friday, I voted no on the budget bill. I was the only Democrat that did so. And it wasn't because Senator Pangilinan did a bad job. He did a great job. That's the best budget bill I've seen in 10 years. The projections were realistic, the numbers were very good, and nobody could really argue about it except for the last chair of FOB, and I guess he had to just because that's what you got to do. No, I voted for the budget bill. I voted against the budget bill because it continues on the same path we've been on for the last 20 years of making the quality of our lives worse. In the FY92 Budget Act, we appropriated $531 million in general fund revenues. This year, we appropriated $540 million. Now think about that. If you were to punch into an inflation calculator and adjust the 92 budget of 533 for today's present, and you know the one I like to use is the U.S. Department of Labor's budget calculator. You can find it on their website, dol.gov. Our budget, just to be on par with what it was in 92, would have been $815 million. We appropriated a third less than we did in 92. And we have done so consistently for the last 20 years. Look, unless you're Jesus Christ and can work miracles, which I am not, and I don't think we have Jesus working in any of our government agencies, you can't continually have less and less and less. Think about your family. Now let's think about this. What if all of a sudden today, you lost a third of your income in your family? Like that, boom. So let's say your family income's about 100 grand a year, just because that way I can do the math easy in my head. So that would mean you'd have to get by on $66,000 this year. What would you do? Well, you start cutting out luxuries, right? You'd quit going out to eat as often, maybe. You would cut down on going to the movies. Kids would have to wear last year's clothes. You maybe wouldn't buy a new car this year, but you'd hope that things would get better next year. Right? Imagine doing it for 20 years straight. After a while, you can't cut back anymore. After a while, you've stripped yourself down till you can no longer function anywhere close to the way you want to function. And that, my brothers and sisters, is exactly what's happened to the government of Guam. You know, look, the government of Guam isn't perfect. Our public structure isn't even close to being perfect. Like any structure, whether it's a business like GTA, or a bank, wherever Phil is, you got him, oh there he is, or a nonprofit organization, it makes no difference. We can always get better at what we do. There's always waste involved. I'm sure at the end of the fiscal year, Phil finds like stationery from 5 years ago and says, darn it, that's our old logo. We got to throw it away and get the new logo in. It just happens. And the bigger your organization is, the more waste there's going to be. It goes without saying. We can always get better at what we do. And we have plans on how to get better. That being said, you got to have the cash to do it. We can't keep going down the road we're on. You know, I could talk about education, but I don't really need to. All our good media guys are always pointing out how inferior our public education is. And before the campaign, we've been pointing out for a long time that we've been spending less than half the national average per child on education. Less than half. But let's talk about some other things that are really important in the public structure. Like I talked about food inspectors, as people are still eating their dessert. Sorry, but it got your attention, didn't it? But think about it. You know, like when they shut down schools because of health inspections? I just had them in front of me in the legislature, and I said, well, when did you go back and re-inspect? They didn't. Do you know that? They didn't. Over a year and a half later, there haven't been re-inspections on the schools that they closed down. How do we know if they kept doing what they were supposed to do? Well, we don't. How about the Guam Occupational Safety and Health Administration, our agency, maybe that's what the A stands for. GOSHA. They're in charge of making sure that we have safe workplaces. They're in charge of making sure that you come to work to earn a living, not to die. Very important agency. Been around for a long time. Crucial to all of our families. Crucial to you and your businesses. You know how many GOSHA inspectors we have in the government of Guam right now? That's a big goose egg, my brothers and sisters. 0. Not 1. We can talk about the Department of Labor. As you see in the paper every morning, like how some new disaster has come up because we don't do the jobs we're supposed to do. The last time Department of Labor inspectors went out and interviewed workers at the job site, which is the most effective way to prevent labor abuse, was in 1985. 1985. That's when the Department of Labor becomes a proactive agency as opposed to a reactive agency. And on and on and on. I can give you plenty of examples, but at the end of the day, folks, the things that keep our life civil, the things that protect our families, the agencies that ensure that our life is the quality of life that we want to lead, is not functioning. And it's not functioning for a number of reasons, and there's lots of things we need to do to make it work again. But the first thing we got to do is start financing it.